All right, we're going to go ahead and start here in a moment once I figure out how to use the mic. The session is marketing for indies, which, thanks. I've been hearing for the last 2 days that there isn't really any marketing, and I tend to agree with that, but not because there couldn't be marketing, but more so because I don't think we've correctly talked about what marketing is, and we're not maybe approaching as many different marketing avenues as exist. So my name is Russell Carroll. I run a website called GameTunnel. Some of you may have heard of it. It's a website that I started because I was making independent games, and I found that there were other cool independent games, and I found that no one knew that either of them existed. So I started working on that. I have a real passion for people knowing about independent games. About a year ago, just a little over a year ago, I dropped out of my MBA program and was hired by Reflexive to be their director of marketing. And that's where I've been for the last year. So it kind of connects both things. I know both sides of this picture because I've had to do marketing, and I've also been on the other side of the person receiving your press releases. At Reflexive, the first thing I worked with was Wick, which had just come out on the Xbox 360. I worked on getting some of the reviews for it initially as we started, and I've also worked on our website in creating it as a stronger portal. So that's a little bit about me. Indies is an interesting term, and it's the one I've had the most trouble with as I've thought about what I would talk about today. What are independent games is kind of relevant if I'm going to tell you how to market them. And I have some concerns about what independent games are being called currently. A lot of times I think that independent games that are successful are immediately adopted as being casual games, that you somehow graduate from this room to the room next door. And I think that's really dangerous. If a game like Avion is no longer independent because it's successful, I think that we need to consider what an independent game is. So my general definition of an independent game is you following your own passion. I don't care what kind of game that you're making as long as it's what you want to be making. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you some different thoughts that I've had about how you can make more money off of your independent games. And that is in fact what marketing is making money off the games. If you don't intend on making money off the games, this may be interesting to you, but probably something you disagree with. So we're going to go on. I've seen a cycle where a lot of people make independent games, don't make money, but do get very angry. And this cycle I put into human terms and called this Clueless Clyde, who goes through a process of creating a game, a website, and not becoming financially successful and becoming very upset. So my goal today is to go through 6 different points which I think will help you to be more successful in the framework that currently exists. First point, you're throwing money away because you're not marketing. And I have little oars there. They're kind of Rocky and Bullwinkle-ish almost. So the oar is, if you don't know what it is, you probably aren't doing it. So what is marketing and what isn't marketing? Well, first off, it's not a crime, as is in the comic. It's also not a fix-all. A lot of people turn to marketing after their game is done. They think, okay, the game's done, time to start marketing. You just failed. If you are going to start marketing after the game is done, you're not marketing. I have a lot of other people who mention that there is no marketing in independent games. I listened to MERSCOM today get up and state that there's no marketing in independent games. You don't market anything going to retail. However, you need to spend time thinking about the box and having a great box. Well, guess what? When you are making a great box, that's marketing. So let's think about this a little bit. Marketing is taking your game and thinking about it from start to finish and thinking about the place that you're going to and finding a better way to reach the people who might purchase it. It's something that you probably are doing without thinking about it, because a lot of you, as you're thinking about what game to make, you're thinking about who might buy the game. That's marketing. So you're probably starting it even if you're not thinking about it. I wanted to talk about a few things that I've seen, or not seen, probably is a better way to say it, that you could be doing that will help in marketing. First off, I mentioned already, is consider the market. I've never talked to a game developer who didn't have more ideas than they were ever going to develop. Ever. Every game developer I talk to, if you walk up to one and say, hey, I've got this great idea for a game, they'll look right back at you and say, I've got about 4,000 great ideas for a game. So, why do I mention that? It's because when you are deciding which of those ideas to make, one thing that you should be considering is what kind of market might be interested in purchasing it. It's not selling out to say, well, you know what, this idea works better at this time, I'm going to use it. But it is marketing, and I highly recommend that you do it, and that you don't wait until you're finished with your game to start thinking about that. Secondly, I have on here creating a press plan. A press plan is nothing more than a bunch of different events that you can use to get people more interested in your game. I mentioned that some people send out a press release. A press release is minimal awareness. You get very, very little awareness off a single press release. I'd recommend that you send out multiple press releases, and that they weren't boring, of course. But when you first announce a game, you will probably find that you get more awareness off of that initial announcement than you actually get off of the game being released announcement. You also may get previews off that initial announcement, and those previews may be more read than the reviews. And what you will also find is that people, when they're previewing something, are always positive. People reading a preview about your game are going to get it in a positive light, and they're going to get excited about it because they can't have it. And we're always more excited about things that we can't have. In considering how to do this, I've got a list of items here. What they really are just different suggestions, different events. And I think that's really the goal of a press plan, is to think about different events. What is it about your game that makes it good? What are the different mechanics? What are different things you can highlight about it? Break those up into events. Make the public aware of them a bit at a time. As someone who's run a games website, I can tell you I get a lot of press releases all the time. And what makes the ones that stick out to me are the ones that I see the same game name that I saw last week and the week before. And after I've seen it a couple times, suddenly I'm familiar with the game, even though I haven't ever read a press release. And I go, oh, I know that game. And I click on it and I'm reading a press release. Persistence, consistency, these things are going to help you a lot. In addition, I would recommend you don't hire someone to write your press release. I know that there were some good services out there. There probably are still some services out there. But as an independent, I wouldn't recommend doing it. And one reason is because you are passionate about what you're doing. And they're passionate about what they're doing. But your passion for the game and your passion of what that game isn't going to necessarily come out into the press release through them. I'd recommend you look at how to communicate. If you want to read something, read books on how to communicate for your press release. I've got a couple of points here. The first one is approach it as a simple, memorable, unexpected, emotion-stirring story. If that sounds familiar, it's ripped from Made to Stick. It's a good book to read. In your press release, do something to make it memorable. They talk about urban legends. Urban legends are quickly passed on, very easily remembered. Your press release should do the same thing. I recommend stories because stories are easy to remember. They get all the details in. Another approach is knowledge gaps. Nintendo has done this with the Nintendo Wii, where people were waiting to find out information like, oh, it's going to be released on this date. You didn't know anything more really than you knew before, but everyone took it as a big press event because they just hadn't gotten that information. I recommend this a lot with independent games. Piece out the information. Something else that I would recommend is when you think about your game, think about it in different terms. Think about it visually. How would you describe it to someone as a picture? How would you describe it to someone as a slogan? Take all of those different things and put them together. That's kind of something like a brand essence. So you get an idea of what your game is. And you want that to flow through each of your press releases. Your press releases are communicating your angle, what it is that you have. And it should be communicating also an angle that customers may care about. So you want to test this out a little bit. The other thing this is going to lead you to is viral marketing. Viral marketing, for the most part, is something that is very, very tricky. How's that? Because what you're really saying is that for every person that gets told about the game, more than one person hears about it from that person. Does that make sense? So you have a talk-through ratio of more than one. That's very, very difficult to do. What I would recommend, though, is finding people who have the ability to tell lots of people about your game. I call these horses. And the idea is you would ride the horse to places that you couldn't get to yourself. These are very, very powerful, maybe websites, people, blogs. If anyone finds your game interesting, take advantage of that fact And then the other part is feed the horse. How do you feed somebody who is promoting your game? Typically, you promote them. Most people who have websites are ego-driven. Feed their ego, they'll promote your game. I know because it works with me. Point 2, you're throwing money away because you're using a publisher. Most people know I have a very, very low opinion of publishers. So here it goes. You're an independent game developer. To me, that means you weren't paid to develop the game, or you have this independent spirit where you were able to design the game that you wanted. It came from inside. Now, if you're doing this on your own, why would you then go to someone and have them take it to portals or wherever else you need to go with it? Doesn't make any sense to me, and the big reason why is because you're giving up a big percentage of your revenue for essentially an email. Getting onto game portals, which I'm going to recommend you do in just a moment, doesn't take much more contact than emailing most of the portals. So, why would you pay a publisher to do that for you? It doesn't make any sense. I don't recommend you do it. Next point. You're throwing money away because you're not using a publisher. Now, this is obviously contrasting the last point. Yeah, I know. It's me. So, the idea here is that some publishers are going to take you places you couldn't go yourself. And if they can get you somewhere you couldn't go, then use them to go to where you couldn't go. I wouldn't recommend using them for everything, but I would recommend using them where you couldn't go. If you can't get to retail, and that's going to be pretty common for everyone, if you can't get to retail, you need a publisher to get to retail. If there is maybe a portal, there might be two that I'm aware of, you can't get to yourself very easily, you might want a publisher for those two portals. And that's it. So, retail, foreign, portals, mobile, console, these are all different areas where you might need a publisher and where I would recommend using one. So point number 4 is really the main point that I wanted to hit on today, and it comes from experience working at Reflexive the last year, which could be considered a portal, is that you're throwing money away by not abusing the portals. My sub point here, you paid for the advertising already, don't throw it away. Yesterday, Andy Schatz stood up and asked it was the gatekeepers session, a question about this black hole. He said, you know, we're paying you basically in a rev share. We get 40% or 50% or whatever we get back, and you keep 50% by putting our game on your portal. Are you doing marketing for it? Who's doing the marketing for our game, since that we're paying you to take it? And the real question here is, are you taking advantage of the fact that you're on the portal? From what I'm seeing, no, you're not. And this is something that certainly should be done. When you're going to a portal, you're getting a huge amount of traffic, and you're throwing it away. You're throwing away the eyeballs that looked at your game because they aren't being transferred to you, and they should be if you take better advantage of what you got. So let's take a look at this. First off, the need for a portal. It takes a lot of work to generate the number of downloads that you're going to need to make money off of your game. Portals have a large number of people, so you should take advantage of the fact that they have the people. So that's why you go to the portals. When I say portals, by the way, I want to just kind of mention that I'm thinking of everyone from Arcade Town to Xbox Live Arcade to Steam to GameTap to, of course, Reflexive, Yahoo Games. These are all portals. They're getting you to the customer, and that's what a portal does. So what I'm recommending you do is steal their traffic. This, in my mind, is what real guerrilla marketing is. It's taking advantage of the opportunity, looking at the frameworks you're in, and doing something with it. How do you steal their traffic? Well, first off, you want to monetize their traffic, so provide something for that traffic. This is going to be off your own website. Downloadable levels, perhaps, hint books, add-ons, mods, eventually sequels. You want to have something from your own website that you are providing that they can't get elsewhere. And whenever I recommend this, the first thing someone suggests to me is, well, you know, the portals, they won't sell add-ons. And I look at them and I say, that's the point. That's exactly why you do them. I would strongly recommend that you do these things. And in addition, I'm going to strongly recommend that you have some way in your game of telling a customer to look for you. It does no good to have an add-on on your website for your own game if no one who plays the game has any reason to go look for your website. So, We're going to do a little case study here of a game that was done by Reflexive. This game is called Ricochet Lost Worlds. This is a screenshot from Ricochet Lost Worlds. You'll notice right there that it is the real arcade version. Bring this up, not to show you really blurry text that you can't read, but to tell you what the text says. The text there in the game, in the real arcade version says, to access more rounds, you must download them from the internet and install them in the rounds folder. Notice it didn't say go to reflexive.com to get more levels, but it did say go get them, and it told you where to go get them, the internet. This is a very effective way of getting customers looking for you. Call them, tell them to go look for you. You can't tell them to go to your website in a game. No portal is going to allow that, but you can send them out to find you, and you should do so. This is a graph that maybe I shouldn't release, but maybe we should. This is income at Reflexive from reflexive.com and just the reflexive.com websites. So Ricochet's website would count into that, but our affiliate network doesn't. The reason I show this to you is to kind of get an idea of the effect of other people's traffic. When we've looked at our numbers, the one thing that has driven people to Reflexive better than anything else, and again, we're a portal, has been our own games. That's been our best marketing tool, is our own games. That drives people. If you look at Ricochet Lost Worlds, it's, I apologize, I'm just looking at this one on the right here, but right there, that's Ricochet Lost Worlds. We have this huge spike, and then it drops down, but this low point here is higher than the high point before. Okay? A big reason for that is, well, first off, Lost Worlds is a sequel, so we hit the sequel piece. Second piece is we have people coming out to download levels from us who then become our customers for the future. And the third Ricochet, recharged, you'll see we're at a new plateau up here. Again, there are opportunities I don't think are being taken advantage fully. This is how Reflexive has done it, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you, but I would strongly recommend doing something to try to find a way, as you are going to the portals, take advantage of the traffic that is there and send them back to you. That's my number one point for today. So if you get that, we're in great shape. Matthew Wegner kind of hit on this point a little bit today, but I wanted to go back over it because it was already in my slides and I didn't feel like taking it out. So, yeah, you're throwing money away because you're not advertising. If you can make money advertising, you should advertise. It may seem kind of old-fashioned. You may think, oh, I've only got 30 bucks. If you've got 30 bucks, advertise for 30 bucks. I would strongly recommend, as you are taking advantage of the portals, that's off-site sales, that you take that money and invest them into your on-site sales to try to increase sales through yourself. So advertising can be smart, but advertising without tracking is stupid. And that is the biggest mistake that people make with advertising, is that you're not keeping track every step of the way of what you're doing. You don't know if you're successful. I know because I've done it before. So, first off, the first thing that most people purchase is impressions. Impressions are useful because they tell you how many times an ad has been shown. However, they don't tell you if the ad was effective or not. So many places will then sell you based on clicks. Clicks will give you an idea of how successful your ad was at driving people through the ad. A lot of people stop here, and that's a big mistake. Clicks tells you how successful the ad was at getting people through it, but it doesn't tell you if the ad was successful in getting people to try your game. Looking at these right here, we got game A, B, and C, and oh, D, yeah, that's good. The click-through ratio on A is almost 1%, which is almost decent. The click-through on B is 1.3%. Depending on what you're doing, that may be decent. So we would probably say A and B are fairly effective. We should purchase more impressions in those so we can drive through more people. Reflexive has the ability to track through our affiliate program, so anybody can really grab it, track the ad all the way through using a channel identifier. You should do something like this. Again, Google Analytics has some similar tools. Integrate them, use them. So the next thing I was looking at was downloads. So I just said ad A was somewhat effective. Ad A, we had 1 download out of 84 clicks. That is horrible. And if I had only been looking at click-throughs, I would have been buying more and more of ad A because I'm like, oh, clearly that's doing really well for me. I need to get more of that ad running. Okay, that ad sucks because people click through it, But when they click through it, they don't download because I'm clearly not communicating to them what they're going through and where they're coming up on the end. The last piece is, of course, conversion. I bring this up for two reasons. First off, to show that even if you know downloads, that doesn't really tell you anything. The most important number is how well it's converting based on those downloads. But also because I put a normal conversion over there, so for about a similar period of time, I'm showing what the conversion was of the game through Reflexive. One of those games is converting at 0.25%. If you look at a game converting at 0.25%, traditional wisdom is you're not going to make money advertising that game. It's just not going to convert well enough. But through advertising, my conversion is up almost 4%, which is definitely making money advertising. So I bring this up because I think a lot of people are scared to advertise. And it is a big, scary deal. But AdWords makes it pretty simple. There's other things out there that make it fairly simple. Go in, carefully track, spend, if you've got 30 bucks, doing some advertising, and I think you will very quickly find you can make money doing this. You can make money advertising and draw more people to your website. And more people to your website is good for current and for future. All right, last point. You're throwing money away by being a bonehead. I wasn't sure how to put this point other than this way. As someone working to promote a game, I have very commonly sent a game out for review, looked at the review and meant, this guy didn't even play through half the game. He's got no idea what's going on, and he rated us really horribly. And so the first thought is, this guy is costing us sales. He sucks. He will be destroyed. That approach isn't going to help at all. Don't burn bridges. It could be with game sites, it could be with game portals, it could be with people you don't know who you are going to meet tomorrow night at the Mini-Mingle or wherever you happen to be, because you don't know how often you're going to need those people to get from point A to point B. Often, I've found that I get to point B by going through points C, D, E, and F, and it wasn't apparent to me at the time that the person I was ready to totally destroy was the one who was going to get me to point B. I strongly recommend you just act professional, and it's really hard to do because I think we're all very passionate. It's one of the reasons that people become independent is because it's hard to work with a lot of other people or under confines when you're passionate about what you do. So be careful. I have a list of activities that won't make you successful most of the time. Ranting, raving, ignoring everyone, paying attention to everyone, blaming, hating, being afraid, working alone. One of the key ones I want to point out there is being afraid. I see a lot of people with a lot of good games who are afraid to show them to anyone until they are like just about done. And it's just about too late to make any changes to the game, even though it's needing some changes. People can't clone your games very quickly. They won't steal your ideas nearly as fast as you think they can do it. Come out with a good game and you will always be ahead. And it takes help to do that. And that means showing people the game and not being afraid. Some activities that will make you successful, team. And I'm not putting up team here in the traditional sense of hire a team and work with you, though that may work. I would recommend that you think of every person around you as your team. Use the people around you. Use the abilities. If they do know something you don't know, leverage that. Use that. That fits right into people. Meet them as you're sitting at lunch or you're going to these parties. Talk to the people who are around you. Find out what their strengths are. Try to find people who care about what you're doing. I can tell you from running GameTunnel, I have done many a review because I cared about the person, not because I cared about the game. And that is the way it is in the industry. I've seen very specifically with the reviews done on our games at Reflexive that if I can get an interview with that reviewer, we will always have a higher score. Always. Just think about it. Offer yourself up. Do whatever you can. And then the last point I already made on professionalism. So I've got a really long list here. I would totally ignore it. But the general idea is when you're thinking about your ideas, pick one based on the market, prototype it. If it doesn't work, try again. But don't wait to market until the very end. Be thinking about what the opportunities are. Go forward. Listen to the feedback along the way, create an entire marketing plan. I would recommend a 2 to 3 month plan, depending on your game, which means, yeah, you have to kind of have an idea 3 months out that you're going to be launching 3 months out. Ignore the publishers, except when you can use the publishers. And then take advantage of the traffic that's already out there for you. When you're going to a portal, when you're getting thousands of people looking at the game, have a message in there. Bring them back to you. Prepare yourself for the next game, and I think that's a big, big piece, is expect, yeah, I'm out of time, expect that you are going to be doing the next game. Think about what you're going to be doing and prepare yourself so that those people can come and be a success for you then. Again, I'm passionate about independent games. I'm passionate about letting people know about your games. This was a one-shot approach. There's millions of approaches. You need to customize it to you. I'm happy to talk to anybody if you want to just grab me at any time during the next few days. And thanks for your time.